Well, now we hear from Judy Raver. She's a journalist who's written a book that aims to reshape the narrative about what happened in East Africa during the Rwandan genocide in 1994. Up to 1 million Rwandans, mainly Tutsis, were killed in slaughter planned by the Hutu majority government. The massacres were ended by soldiers from the Tutsi Rwandan Patriotic Front, led by current President Paul Kagame. Rwiza accuses him and the RPF, today the ruling party, of atrocities comparable, if not equal, to those blamed on Hutu genocidaires. Around 2 million Hutus fled into today's DR Congo. Rwiza says that the RPF, whilst being internationally praised, hunted down and murdered Hutu refugees. She also accuses them of having escalated the Tutsi genocide as part of a meticulously engineered plan to seize power. Earlier, she told me that none of that changes the fact that Tutsis were also victims of genocide.
There was a genocide committed against Tutsis by Hutus, by elements of the state, by Hutu militia, but my research shows that Kagame's commandos, who were called technicians at the time, amplified that genocide against Tutsis. How they did that was that they infiltrated the Hutu militias and assisted directly these militias in killing Tutsis at roadblocks.
And where do you get this perspective from? Why are you so sure that that's what happened?
I'm sure of it because it comes from testimony from a number of sources. Number one, what's explosive is that this evidence is in documents, confidential documents that I've accessed from the United Nations. So that is very solid evidence. It was documented. Secondly, most of the former members I've spoken to, former members of Kagame's army, have told me that this is what happened. They've confirmed it. I've gotten rich detail about it.
Would former members of the RPF not have a vested interest in pushing back against the official version of events? May they not have an axe to grind against Kagame?
Well, that's always a concern, but a good number of the former officers and soldiers I've spoken to are not affiliated with any political party. Some are, but a good number are not. And I think it's important to emphasize that, again, the first time I found out about this was in UN documents. So that is crucial. Also, people who have testified to the tribunal and to me have risked their lives to do so. So they've taken enormous risks.
So give us an overview of how your version of what happened diverges from the more widely held understanding of what happened in 1994.
Well, Kagame is understood and believed to be a savior who stopped the genocide. He did not stop the genocide. His troops committed genocide as well against Hutus. So how did they do that? He had special mobile units set up that operated behind the front. So as soon as the plane went down, as soon as Habyarimana was assassinated, basically his intelligence agents and soldiers from high command, various divisions of the army, operated behind battalions. They targeted, exterminated Hutu intellectuals, leaders, businessmen, lawyers, and then they went after peasants. So the RPF committed genocide as well. What I say in my book is that the violence in Rwanda in 1994 was bidirectional.
And how did no one notice these hundreds of thousands of Hutu refugees being killed?
Well, it was hard to see, I believe, for journalists, because journalists were mostly in Kigali, and those who went to the eastern part of the country where this was happening first in April and May and June further south, they were escorted by the RPF. The RPF covered its tracks. But it's inaccurate to say that no one knew. the UN knew, and there were cables, there were reports that talked about Hutu refugees, Hutu civilians being slaughtered wholesale in May. That is on record. That evidence was concealed, was buried.
Why would it be concealed or buried? The violence associated with the Rwandan genocide caused international horror. Explain to us why you believe that this was just brushed under the carpet.
Well, Kagame has been protected. His regime has been protected for a variety of geopolitical reasons. It's very complex. These are questions you might want to put to powerful insiders. But clearly the UN and the United States wanted a victor. They wanted someone to establish security. I personally think that was a misguided notion because Kagame was not the person to establish security for Rwanda and the Great Lakes. But they covered up these crimes. There was also another report done in after the genocide, interviewing refugees, Hutus, and this man who did the report concluded that in 1/3 of Rwanda and 1/3 of the communes he had visited, the RPF had indeed committed genocide. That was his professional opinion. The UN buried that until a whistleblower leaked it online in 2010.
Judy Rwiza, the author of In Praise of Blood. Well, that's it for Eye on Africa.